Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about stacked value. Stacked value is the opposite, as I call it, word vomit. Okay, stacked value is a critical technique that's used, in this case, only in the sales industry. Now, when we're discussing stacked value, we're talking about putting one layer of value upon another layer of value upon another layer of value. That's how we want it to be presented to a client towards the end of the appointment. And again, if you are in the B2C world, you may have multiple appointments in the course of a day, in the course of a week. So the entire process, your sales process, is going to be expedited. So getting an opportunity to stack the value is going to happen relatively quick and routinely for you. If you're in the B2B world where you're dealing with, executives, you actually will be pushing the entire sales process over weeks, months at a time, some couple of years, big, multi-million dollar deals. So when it comes down to stacked value, what we want to do is we want to associate the stacked value with individual examples of that value throughout your process. Okay, so for example, you do not want to just give information at the very, very end of the appointment. Okay, you don't want to be like, oh, by the way, we offer this, this, and this, and you never alluded to it throughout the discussion and throughout the entire process. Okay, you want to actually get an opportunity to talk about that individual value throughout your process and then connect those dots at the very end. The best way you can understand this, again, in my opinion, is if we think of those old school infomercials. Remember OxyClean? Remember the guy, his name was Bill or something, or Billy or something, but he had the slick back dark hair and he had the dark beard. Remember, he would go talking about OxyClean and how it's just the greatest product on earth. But what did he do? He would show you what each piece that he's going to be selling to, each level of value, he's going to show you how it works. So he does I think it's like an orange clean thing. He sprays it. They talk for a second. He wipes it off and he shows you how clean it is. He then goes to the oxidizer thing for the washing machine, and then he shows you another one that has a little bit of bleach in it for this reason. They even had some dryer related items, and he shows you all of these items, and then at the very end, what happens? This is like every infomercial, right? What happens? You can get this. I'm making this number up right now. You can get this for $49.99. But if you call right now, we will throw in the Orange Clean, which is an $18 value. And if you call in the next 30 minutes, we're even going to throw in the oxidizer. Okay? And then what they do in the infomercial is whenever they name the next product, the oxidizer, the Orange Clean, they flash back to remind you this is what that product physically does. This is what the Orange Clean stuff does. That's what the oxidizer does, and then this is the regular OxyClean. So it's $49.99. If you call right now, you will get this. And if you call in the next 30 minutes, you will get this. He's stacking all the value. Now, let's say you're in an appointment right now, or you're in the process of your appointments, right? If you're in the B2B world, and you're talking about, and I always use this example because it's easy for everyone to understand, you're talking about windows. Now, if you're talking about windows and you're having a discussion and you never brought up the options that you have, you never brought up the warranties that come with the window, you've never brought up the warranties that come with the company, you've never brought anything up. You just did a lot of listening, you did some talking, but you never really talked about the value. And then all of a sudden at the end of the appointment, you start saying, by the way, this is backed by this warranty. By the way, we have these options. By the way, we also have these colors. And by the way, we also back the product for that. All of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, wait, what? That's word vomit. Because you're literally just vomiting all the information out. Okay, you can even call it an info dump. Okay, because you're just sitting there telling everybody what they want to hear, because you feel like you're just filling in the blanks, right? You're just checking off the boxes. You're connecting the dots. Like, oh, whoops, I forgot to mention this. By the way, we offer this, this, and this. It's not the way it's supposed to be. You have to stack that value, and it has to correlate directly with what you've discussed throughout your appointment. Does that make sense? So, if we're talking about, I always have a phone with me. So, let's say we're talking about the phone. So, an example of word vomit, info vomit, right, info dumping, would be me saying, okay, so you told me you want a phone, okay, you want a newer phone, you said, right? Okay, and you want one that has a really good camera. Okay, all right, perfect. All right, well, these are the phones that we have, and you lay them all out. Oh, by the way, this also comes with this warranty, that warranty, this warranty comes in this color and that color. It also comes in this model, and this model. We have this camera, and also this one here has the old school Polaroid option. This one here has the portrait mode. Do you see how you're just throwing everything at somebody? It's word vomit, because now the resistance wall goes back up, like we've talked about in other shows, where now the person's like, wait, what? We didn't talk about any of that stuff. We didn't have a single conversation about any of that stuff. So why are we talking about this right now? I didn't know about the warranties. I didn't know about the colors. I didn't know about the options. I didn't know about the camera options. I knew nothing. Now all of a sudden you're telling me this. It's like, now I want to know everything about each one of those pieces of information that you just threw at me. And it creates resistance, because now you're backtracking. You're like, oh wait, I didn't answer these questions for them, or I didn't tell them this information. So you just start to word vomit it and just check off the boxes and connect those dots. Okay, filling in the blanks. You can't do that. What you got to do is have that information throughout the appointment. Understand what is important to that individual. Okay, because everybody's different. If it's me, I might want the phone for XYZ reasons, but this person might want it for ABC reasons. Okay, it comes down to asking them the questions to understand why they truly want that phone or that product. Okay, so that's a strict example of word vomit or info dump. I've given you a light-hearted example of the stacked value with the OxyClean example. If you're in the B2C world, you're in the B2B world, it does not matter what world of sales that you're in. You want to stack your value, however, you want to make sure that it correlates throughout your appointment, okay? So you want to let them know this is what we offer. You mentioned that, warranties are extremely important to you. I want to let you know this is what we offer for a warranty. Now, knowing that, is this a warranty that is comfortable for you? Is this a warranty that you can stand behind? Okay, if they say yes, absolutely, great. That level of value has been added to the level of stacking, right? To the stack, whatever you want to call it. Now, you've done this, right? So this is what happens next. After you go through your process, you've talked about warranties, talked about everything else. Now you're at the very end of the process, right before you're ready to offer the solutions, and hopefully you can come to an agreement. You're going to now go back and say, remember we talked about how important warranties are to you? Yes, absolutely. Okay. We discussed about our warranty. It's XYZ years, and you mentioned that is something that you could get behind. That's a good warranty, a strong warranty. Do you still feel this way? Yes, I do. Okay, perfect. Next, we talked about this, blah, 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 blah. And do you still feel strongly about that? Yes, I do. Great. Let's go to the next thing. You mentioned here you like these colors. We went through a bunch of colors, and the blue is the one that you really did like. Are we still on the same page about that color blue? Yes, we are. You see how we stacked it? We talked about the color. We talked about some options. We talked about the warranty, right? However, we also took all that information and had that discussion throughout the actual appointment. So we were able to stack it and correlate it with a conversation that we had earlier, because what we're doing is connecting everything. We're not word vomiting this. We're not info dumping this. Okay? That's really important. And if we were to compare this to a real life situation that 99% of us have been in, is think about a relationship. If you're on date number 1, right, the first date, we already know, nerves aside and everything aside, date number 1, are you going to just pretty much sit there and listen and kind of be like robotic and just, yep, oh, sounds good, oh, that's good, what do you do for work? Oh, okay, cool. And then after your 2-hour date, 3-hour date, however how long you've been on that date, it's over. Then at the very end you go, by the way, I just want to let you know that I love to cook. I drive a motorcycle. I like muscle cars. I like this. I like to fish. I like to be outdoors. I like to hike. My favorite place to visit is, I don't know, Tennessee. You see how you're stacking all your value? You're just info dumping it. You're word vomiting it to the other person. You're now telling them all these pieces because you forgot. Again, remember the whole thing about filling in the blanks, checking off boxes? You forgot to give that information throughout the appointment, throughout the date. Okay, so throughout that process, you did not give that other person that information. And now you're like, oh no, I can't let them leave without them knowing this information. So I'm just going to start stacking it this way and start telling them everything. No, you can't stack that because you did not talk about your favorite destinations to visit. You did not talk about your hobbies, which would include you liking to cook and being outside and hiking and maybe fishing, okay? We never talked about, cars and how cars mean to you, or I'm sorry, what cars mean to you and how important they are to you. We didn't discuss any of that. So you can't take that value that you think you've stacked and correlate it to the conversation because it never occurred. Okay, does that make sense? We want to make sure that everything that you're talking about correlates. Okay, this is also a really good way to create rapport and trust with your either significant other on a date or in a professional business setting. Because what happens is, as human beings, we all know, if it doesn't feel right, something's not right, right? I feel it in my gut. We all know that, that saying, right? So when we're talking to other human beings, they get the same feeling. They get the same gut feeling as well. So if you're now talking about, let's say they say warranties are so important to me, and we talk about warranties as a company, and we talk about warranties as, for our product, okay? If we're having those discussions and we're talking about that, and then at the very end, we say, we offer this warranty that we discussed earlier. You mentioned that this was a really strong warranty that you could get behind. Is that still the case at this stage of the game? Absolutely. Okay, now it correlates. Okay, now it makes sense. So for a lot of people, this might be very difficult because you have to pay attention to what you're saying. And I always tell people, and I did this in a previous show, do not lie. Do not lie to a client. Do not lie to a prospect. Do not lie to your significant other, or if you're on a date, whatever. Do not lie because it's going to come out. Okay, it's going to come out. The truth will come out. They'll sniff it out some way or another, especially if you're dealing with somebody like me. I'm going to be looking for that. When I deal with salespeople, I look for a lot of different things. Okay, and there's a lot of people like me. They don't have to be in sales to understand this. It's literally just, the fact of the street smarts, the common sense. That's what it is. You cannot teach common sense. You can help people kind of be more aware of what's going on around them. However, you can't teach everything you know. It's just not a possibility. Like they always say, you cannot beat the master. You cannot beat your coach. It's the same thing. So that's how we explain the stacked value. You want to make sure that it correlates with the appointment and with the information that you've been given since the very, very beginning. That's what you want to do. So when you're able to do that, and then at the very end, you're now stacking it up, what you're almost doing is putting the cherry on top, right? It's almost like the mercy rule in baseball when we were in, Little League and, Babe Ruth League and all that. If it's over a certain amount of runs after a certain inning, they just call the game. You being able to stack that value along with correlating that value with information that you've already discussed throughout the appointment, that's like the mercy rule. That's the cherry on top. That's the, we're going to make it. We're going to have an agreement. We're going to sign this agreement because everything that this sales rep has talked about is exactly what I'm looking for. Okay. And that's when all the stars align. Okay. There's so many different ways to categorize this and to look at this, info dumping or word vomit is almost like if someone that you're really interested in and you're not really sure if they're interested in you, if you're really interested in someone, they go, I really like, people that like to be outdoors and like to hike and like to do all this stuff. And I love outdoorsy people. And you're not an outdoorsy person. You might say, okay, all right. That sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that. But you don't say, well, that's what I like to do. I actually like to hike. I like to go fishing. I like to go boating. Like you're not giving information to support the statement. So what happens is you then begin to lie. And remember, this is why I said it adds that resistance wall, right? Because now at the very end, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I really like this person. They just said that they like outdoorsy people, and I didn't really talk about anything outdoors. Oh, by the way, now you're at the end. Now, by the way, I don't know if I told you, I love hiking. And I love fish. I love being outdoors, so it's just one of my favorite things to do. It's going to automatically tell that other person on the other side of you that you're probably not being honest because when that conversation, came about, you didn't get involved with it. You shied away from it. But now you're trying to, connect the dots, fill in the blanks, check the boxes because you really like that individual. And you know that one of their, one of their strong points or you can say their pain points to whatever, but we're talking about a significant other right now. You know if you really like this person and you're unsure if they like you, but they tell you I like outdoorsy people, you're just gonna throw it out there. Oh, I like to be outdoors. I love it. I do go hiking and fishing. Someone like me would be like, yeah, where's your favorite hiking trails? And within a millisecond, I'll look how you respond, and I'll know that you're not being honest with me. It's like that funny TikTok that we did about if you like dogs or if you don't like dogs. It's really not so much about the animal. It's the allergies. If you do not like animals, because of your allergies. They need to say, I love it. I just have really bad allergies. So if it's a possibility that we could actually have this, meeting maybe outside or like in another area, that would be beneficial. That homeowner is going to respect you more than saying, oh, I love dogs, and you start sneezing and coughing, your eyes like bubbled up like you just did 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, right? So the whole point is being honest, right, from the very, very beginning, stacking your value. And I always end all my shows with a direct example. So a direct example of how we're going to stack this value. I'm going to do a two-part example. One is, as I said, in the relationship or the beginning of a relationship, you want to ask questions and understand, right? Be curious, ask a lot of questions, understand where they're coming from. They say, I like people that love to be outdoors. When you say outdoors, what are you referring to? Oh, just, I don't like when people go to the car wash. I like when they just wash their own car. You save money that way, and, it's a good bonding experience with you and your significant other. Oh, okay, cool. And if you don't really do that, you're typically the go to the car wash kind of person. That's okay. Just don't get involved in the conversation. Just say, okay, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. If they ask you, tell them the truth. I usually just typically go to the car wash, but now that you mentioned it like that, that actually is a really good way to think about it. And then you kind of just go from there. And then if they say, like me personally, I love to cook. So if someone says to me, I like people that can cook, I go, oh, awesome. I said, that's actually one of my favorite things to do. And they're like, really? They're like, yeah, one of my favorite things to do is to cook. You can tell how I feel about something by the way I cook. And then it gets into a different conversation. So then at the end of the date, right, so to speak, I'm now saying to them, one day, it would be nice, if we have another date, or if we can get together again, one day I'll make you whatever your favorite dish is. I'll make it for you. That is being stacked. That value is being stacked because I'm referring back to a conversation that we had and correlated it with it. And that level of value is cooking because that individual likes when somebody cooks for them. Okay. In the professional world, if someone is telling you that they have an issue with, like I said, I always go to the windows. They have an issue with these windows and they want to get new windows, and you're just listening and listening and listening. And then at the very end, you don't talk about warranties, you don't talk about anything, but all of a sudden, boom, oh, by the way, we have this warranty, we have that warranty, we have these colors, and you never brought any of that up. It's going to raise red flags, it's going to raise that resistance wall. Okay. Now, if they say, I have issues with these windows, okay, tell me what issues you're referring to. Okay, so are you telling me you do not want that same kind of window, like a single pane window again, because you already have one, or are you open to a new one? Are you open to that discussion? And you just go from there. And then at the end of the conversation, you can say, okay, now we did discuss different variations of options, and one of the options is a single pane window that we discussed. We do offer that. So you see how I was able to stack that value based on the correlation of the conversation that already occurred. So that's the difference of stacked value and word vomit or info dumping. The stacked value, each level of value, each part of value of the product that you're offering, whether it's yourself or it's an actual product, you want to make sure that it correlates with the conversation or something that we discussed at some point during the appointment. Whether the appointment took months, multiple appointments in the B2B world, or if it's a quick 2-hour, 3-hour appointment in the B2C world. Regardless, you want to make sure that it correlates, okay? Info dumping, word vomit, that is just a strategy that some people use to fill in the blanks, to check off the boxes because they forgot to mention that earlier, or they're trying to get the deal, right, or close the deal, and they're like, oh no, they said this, I have to fill in this blank, I have to check off this box, I have to connect that dot. So you just, oh, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. It doesn't correlate with anything that was said, and it raises that resistance wall. That's it for this show, guys. Like, subscribe on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, and we are on TikTok. We do daily videos on TikTok, always sales and success related, life related, business related. Some of them are funny, some of them are serious. They all go back and forth. But that does conclude this episode here on the difference of stacked value and word vomit or info dumping. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Thanks, guys.